Part 2. Background. Mon's background. 16. Waif. Mon's and large family, rural in Uganda. 14 years ago, a little boy of 1 year was adopted from Uganda. But there is not much information about his origin. Mons doesn't know, neither does Veronica or anyone else related to the adoption, that he has a large family in Uganda. It is made up of 10 people, mom, dad, and 8 siblings, 5 boys, and 3 girls. But the family was impoverished and Mons very ill. At the age of 7 months, he had severe stomach cramps in the form of colic, and he screamed too often. And because of these difficult circumstances, the parents decide to leave him anonymously only. They fear that he would not survive without receiving hospital care. And it was in a hurry. This they can't afford. And they don't know anyone else with the opportunity to help financially. So there are really only 2 choices they have to choose from, letting him die at home shortly or putting his hope in someone else. They hope that he will get a second chance at someone with resources in the form of medical care and good finances. Hopefully, he would first be taken care of by the authorities. Maybe he can then go directly to the hospital and receive care. And then come to a family, a loving with good finances. But choosing to lose him is a difficult choice. But the positive thing here is that they choose to lose him when he is alive. Otherwise, and shortly, they will have to bury him. The family cannot do this, to see the little child suffer so much and, after all, decides to give him a second chance. And the decision to leave him is not as difficult as trying to keep him. 17. Leaves the child. When they hand him over to the authorities, they try to make it as discreet and anonymous as possible. And they are careful not to leave any traces behind that will allow the authorities to look them up. The only way for them to find the child's parents, the mother, is possibly through DNA testing. This becomes too big a thing and becomes impossible. Then they have to take DNA tests on every woman in Uganda. If the mother remains in the country and if she is alive. No, the authorities will not start this apparatus. And to the neighbors, they say that the child died during the night that has been. They bed him down in a wooden box, which his father leaves early on a morning to a small care facility. Both the wooden box and everything from fabrics and clothes around the child are carefully selected and cannot be traced to any particular place or address. Dad knows that when the baby starts screaming, the staff should come out and discover it. And from this moment it should be taken care of and certainly get professional care. 18. Found by healthcare professionals. Mons is found by healthcare professionals just a few minutes after his father has left for home again. And he has severe stomach ailments in the form of colic, and does not want to eat. He is constantly screaming. But after care is taken, it is not long before Mons becomes silent and wants to sleep. He gets drip with nutrition, and after a few days, he can start eating again. And he loves his bottle. After the hospital stay, he is taken to an orphanage, where he is soon adopted by a Swedish couple in their 40s, who cannot have their own children. The orphanage takes the help of the police to find the child's parents. But they fail. The parents manage to leave the child without leaving a trace. Not so much as a small written message is with the boy, in his little wooden box, when he is found. When he is dropped off, the parents first and foremost make a totally wrong decision. They should have just taken him to the nearest hospital and asked for help. But they don't. His family is large and very poor. He has 8 siblings. The youngest, a girl, is 3 years older than him. And the oldest, a boy, is 14 years older than he. The parents do not know what to do with the little sick child who screams day and night hysterically. They have no money for a hospital stay, and they know that the child will soon die if it does not receive medical care. They hastily decide to try to help and save the child by simply leaving it alone. With this, they pass on the responsibility to the authorities. And then, how it goes for the little boy, of course, no one in his family knows. His parents decide early after leaving the baby that now there will be no more babies. They risk being in the same situation again, and they are not able to do so psychologically. No, instead, they want to respect and honor this little boy by becoming the one who absolutely comes last. He grows up with his adoptive parents in Alingsås in Västergötland. And he gets the world's most loving adoptive parents. 19. Mourning large family. Måns' family in Uganda has been grieving him for a long time, and in fact, they are doing so today. Sometimes his mother cries despair all day long. Dad and all the other kids try to comfort. But it is difficult to find comfort when a child is lost. However, Dad is constantly trying to take comfort in the fact that they have tried to give the child a second chance. But still, it is as if the memory of the little baby is etched into the memory. And later, they can see him crawl, point, walk, run. Yes, they never get rid of the picture of him. And they don't want to get rid of it either. They save the baby's few possessions, some worn clothes that it has inherited from its brothers. The most difficult time of grief is the first year after leaving Måns. But the worst is the uncertainty if he is still alive. On several occasions, the father has seriously considered going and reporting to the authorities, the police, that he has left his child. But how should he say that? And what if it is a criminal act that they have done? What if it's like child abduction, but the other way around? What if he could get jail for what they did? And what if there is a longer sentence? Who should support the family? He needs to work and pull in the few kronor that go, working out in the field and taking care of the oxen. But what if the authorities declare him incompetent and then that they come to fetch all his other children? And that the mother remains alone, without both husband and children? Millions of thoughts spin in the minds of the parents who constantly land that what they did with leaving the child was the best they could do. When they have passed a little more than a year, after leaving Måns, the family constantly tries to comfort each other, as before. They try to comfort each other that today he probably would have been dead and already buried, if they had not done what they did. But the great consolation is to think that now maybe Måns is living and feeling well with another family, one with good finances. During all the years that go by, Måns is included in his family's thoughts and memories. They usually think that he is probably like his brothers, and they like to see him a little in them. And sometimes, there is a lot of joy and laughter in their conversation about the memories and about the little bird, the croaker, Måns flying around in life somewhere in some place with someone who loves him and who takes good care of him. And sometimes the worst anxiety attacks come over them, most parents, over what they have done. There will be a lot of crying and desperate attempts to comfort one another. And this that follows them strongly almost every day through life, right up to the present day. And probably this, with these feelings of conscience of both the tenderness of love and severe anxiety, will follow them. This is, to say the least, the parents and the whole life out. In some way, they have to rein in their emotions in order to be able to move forward. They need to try to think positively, comfort each other when needed, and always try to look bright ahead. Besides, they have to take care of 8 other children. For life, there must always, in some way, find a way forward. Everything else will be the end. Of course, Måns and Veronica know nothing about all this. But the little child, who is found screaming out on the stairs to the care facility, has probably been registered in some way with blood tests and obtained DNA. Regardless of where the little child comes from, neither blood test nor DNA is visible. The child's history and affiliation will then remain unknown. But maybe he can find some family members in a DNA bank somewhere. In Uganda or perhaps nearby. 20. Is given the name Mons. It is in the fall, in the month of September, when the adoptive parents think about what to name the boy. He has been with them for more than 2 months. And they feel like the happiest little family in the world. They look for all kinds of name suggestions in newspapers and on websites on the internet. But without finding it. The difficult thing is not to find a name, but rather to choose one of all the beautiful ones that exist. It's late evening, and the adoptive dad needs to go out on the balcony to get a breath of fresh air. And the adoptive mother soon comes out and joins him. Arvid has scraped clean balcony railings from the snow. And now he hangs with his forearms in support against the railing. She hugs him from behind and says several suggestions on names that she particularly likes. He asks that they are not in such a hurry with names and that they can sleep on the thing. And he looks up at a very large and beautiful full moon. It lights up like a large lamp.
"What a beautiful moon it is now,"
he says, putting his hand to her face. She kisses him on the neck, and says,
"Yes, it's a real moon night."
Now he shrugs and says,
Now I know. Moon night.
Yes, like a lunar night.
A moon's night, and in Swedish, a måns night.
He laughs even more happily.
Yes. It is clear that he is called Måns.
It cannot get better.
Måns, Arvid, Svensson.
We have to celebrate this,
he says.
Don't we have a bottle of wine in the cupboard on the bookshelf?
I even think there's a bottle of cognac, if you haven't drunk it already.
They go into the living room and look after it. And quite correctly, there is a half-full bottle of cognac in the cupboard. They pour into 2 glasses and toast. Then they go to the nursery and look at Måns.
"Hello, our little prince,"
says Veronica.
Yes, hello, our little Måns, Arvid. You are so wonderful.
Måns then lies for several hours and sleeps comfortably in his cot. And next to him, he has several soft and comfy animals, a dog, a cat, and a rabbit. 21. Stable. When Måns is 9 years old, he accompanies a friend, Maria, to the stables. They are in the same class at school. His interest in horses is growing and he devotes almost all his free time to the stable. He also gets to help the head of the riding school take care of her horse. And he pretty much gets to ride her horse whenever he wants. There will also be a lot of maintenance in the stable that he helps with. This goes on for years. He takes care of the stables, rides riding lessons, and at other times rides the riding school manager's horse. But one day, when he is about to turn 14, Veronica makes demands on the head of the riding school. She wants Måns to be compensated by the riding school for his work in looking after the stables and in the form of free riding lessons. But when she doesn't get these demands through, she starts a conflict with the manager. It gets worse and they reach no solution. Måns feels embarrassed that Veronica is ashamed of him. And he no longer wants to go to the stable. He ends up in a very tricky situation. Feels he is in an impossible case. Whatever he chooses, it will be wrong. If he continues to go to the stable and take care of the riding school manager's horse, he goes straight toward Veronica. And if he stops caring for the horse, then it will be tricky to go to the stable. Shouldn't he even be able to greet the horse and pat it? Where does the border go? If there is any. As he thinks about stopping to go to the stable, he meets Emma at school. And they stay together. He is with her almost every day, in and out of school. This makes it feel natural to stop going to the stable. And he hasn't had any riding lessons for weeks, when Veronica refuses to pay them. And Emma, whom he loves so much. She has been like a rock for him for a year. 22. Passing away in cancer. And Veronica is feeling bad. She has been doing this for 3 years, ever since Arvid passed away from cancer. His brain tumor removes him after only a few months. This completely shatters Veronica. She is breaking down more and more. And since then, she has been more or less strange and completely out of balance. And today, she is more or less unable to take care of Måns or herself. Måns instead tries, as best he can, to take care of her. But it's not easy without money. And the money she gets on her sick pay more or less she puts into alcohol. Sometimes she also buys drugs. It is mostly in tablet form. Expensive and life-threatening tablets. Veronica can't handle all her grief. It leads her to long-term sick leave. And soon, the economy will be hit hard. With poor finances, she is forced to opt out of bills to afford her drinking and taking drugs. Initially, she seeks help from a doctor and a psychologist. But soon, when it really dawns on her that no one can give her husband back, she has to seek her comfort in something else. And she finds the bottle of alcohol. Later also, drug tablets. And in 3 years that have passed, she has been able to sink deeply into her great grief for the man. There doesn't seem to be anything that can get her back on track. Maybe she should think, feel, and be glad that she has Måns. But it's not. Instead, it is as if she has already died for some time. At least a larger part of her has it. 23. No real family. The idea was that they would adopt another child, a little later, and from the same place, orphanages. But their economy is getting worse. They simply have to postpone a second adoption until they get a little better finances. But that will not be the case. The economy continues to be miserable, and suddenly one day, Arvid has suffered a brain tumor. And after his passing, as I said, life completely crashes for Veronica. Sometimes Måns has a hard time understanding that things can go bad for a human being. Why doesn't she sharpen, simply? She has Måns. But he no longer feels enough for her. Maybe she doesn't love him enough, as she might have done if he were her biological child. Måns no longer gets things together in life, and it adds to his self-esteem. He is not just a black child, adopted from Uganda. He has no real family either, neither biological nor in the form of pretend family. A broken, downtrodden, and soon-to-be completely addicted mother, is all he has. But what should he do about it? Can he tell her that she has to stop wasting their money on alcohol, and definitely not buy drugs for them? Will she listen? And will it help? They are poor, Veronica, and him. Extremely poor. And they always have been. But during the past 6 months, things have probably gotten worse, and it is speeding up at an ever faster speed. 24. Huge trip. Måns has today made a tremendous journey through his 15 years. He has become a very confident and mentally strong person. Has survived at school and outside, among other things, racism, exclusion, enormous poverty, great betrayal, and has, on many occasions, felt more or less abandoned. Though on his difficult road, he has also experienced much love and care. This has often come from the adoptive parents, even if Veronica is seriously derailed as he is only 14.5 years old. And he has also received a lot of love from classmate Maria, with whom he has spent a lot of time within the stable. Although since a year they have only seen each other at school, when he has stopped going to the stable. He has also received a lot of love and consideration from school staff, not least from a woman in the school kitchen and the grocery store owner there at home. And of course, from Emma, before she tracks out. Hard times. 25. 3 years of disintegration. Mons, thoughts. Indeed, there is nothing worse than when difficult events in life cause life to collapse. This has made it almost constant for Mons, and for 3 years. After Arvid passes away, Veronica has not been able to handle all the grief, and with it has raged a bit for each day that has passed. And today, she is down in a fixed alcohol dependency, long-term sick leave, and with an economy that has totally failed. She pretty much drinks away the little money they have, in the form of sick pay and support from the social welfare office. Of course, all this is not known by the social worker. Because then she would surely lose custody of Mons. And for 2 months they have had no electricity in the apartment, when the electricity company has switched off their electricity. They have not paid the electricity bill in almost 6 months. Although at least as bad, if not worse, it is with them that they received a letter of eviction from the apartment 3 weeks ago. They have not paid the rent in 4 months. And on Monday, in 2 weeks, an ordered moving company will come there to empty their apartment on all their furniture and things. Although this, the adoptive mother does not know about, because Mons has seized the letter and did not want to tell her this. But that would not have made a significant difference, other than that she would have been drinking even more alcohol in the worst case. This is to deactivate or maybe turn off the feelings of sadness. For Mons, life crashes a bit with each day that goes by. He feels he can't handle it anymore now. But what should he do or resort to when one sadness replaces the other? 26. The courage to beg for food and sweets. On several occasions now, during the spring term in the 8th grade, which he has just put behind him, he has had to beg for food. And he has received help in the school kitchen at his school. He simply goes into the kitchen and tells as it is, that Mom and he sometimes do not have enough money to buy food. He also says his adoptive mother has substance abuse problems, but that he is scared to interfere with the social in the case. It might cause Veronica to lose custody of him. And then she gets another grief that will drag her further down the shit. Maybe then she will kill herself with both alcohol and drugs. This kitchen staff, whom he dares to trust, he has known since the beginning of 7th grade that she likes him a lot. Maybe because he is black and adopted, and of course very good looking. She promises that she will help him completely and secretly. And she says nothing to the others in the kitchen staff, nor the headmaster at the school. Possibly she will be caught stealing school food. Although then, Mons promises to help her back, and by saying that it is to him and his mother that the food has gone. And if the kitchen staff, who helps him, is fired, he promises to put up with the worst circus that will go out in the daily press. And the school will get a lot of crap for that. On several occasions, he receives a full carrying bag of food from this kitchen staff. He gets lunch leftovers, bread, salad, juice, and ice cream. On several occasions, he has also gone to the grocery store there at home in the neighborhood and begged for some candy that the best date was about to go out. Maybe it is his beautiful and so honest, dark brown eyes that also help him here. Because he brings snacks, sweets, chocolates, and soft drinks on several occasions in a carrying bag. And it's not any old candy he gets. No, and the store manager offers him this. Mons, thanks so much for all the kindness towards him. And he says he can pay it all at a later date, when he works and makes money himself. But the store manager tells him with a warm smile that it is not needed. Not much like relatives. 27. Missing roots. Måns' thoughts. At present, there is not much Måns has of family, relatives, and friends. And he has never known any direct affiliation with the adoptive parents' family, siblings, and relatives. They pretty much all have more or less shielded themselves from him, like they don't really want to take him in. And maybe it's because he has a different look than them. He is not only a black from Africa, he is also a very black from Africa, with whom they are surely difficult to identify. And Måns has never felt loved by them. They are certainly sneaky racists all around. It has always felt like they don't care about him, and with that, he has always responded by not caring about them either. They have just been seen at something bigger party or gathering like baptism, wedding, funeral. But much more than that, it is not. He also knows that some of the adoptive parents' families, siblings, and relatives have been talking sneakily about why they choose to adopt a black from Africa, and also one, so black. Why not a white, blonde, and preferably, with blue eyes? Someone who has a look that might as well have been their own child. It can probably only be stated here, except that the family, siblings, and relatives are sneaky racists, that they actually belong to another planet, as well. What Måns has not thought about or the least wondered about, is that his whole crap family is probably homophobic too. Because they seem to follow what they themselves consider normal strictly. And to follow the hetero norm is certainly a matter for them. You can probably figure that out with the little toe. Because they do not care about a black in the family, then they certainly do not care if anyone is gay either. Although Måns knows that he is heterosexual, and even at his fingertips. And in that case, it would have been the height of bad luck if he were also gay. Or does it matter? If they feel uncomfortable with being black, then it probably doesn't matter at all with the rest. He could also have been severely disabled, without both arms and legs. How had they worked then with all their prejudices? No, such dirty zeros, Måns does not give a single penny for. They can all go and fly. But Veronica loves him. He knows that. Also Maria. Because, as they both have said plenty of times, the look doesn't matter, but more who you are. Of course, it is the inside that counts. Then what skin color or hair color you have is not important. And Måns is, besides very black and originating from Africa, like any Swedish. Can't get any worse. 28. Very poor. And he and Veronica live very poorly. As mentioned before, they have no electricity in the apartment, and now almost nowhere to live. He knows she can't handle more defeats now. This, with electricity, is probably so hard. And if they, go to the social authority with this whole thing, then she is immediately declared incapacitated. And with her mental ill health, they will confine her to a care facility or similar. Or maybe a home for detoxification. The only consolation in this is that she has not committed any crime, which can lead to imprisonment. Possibly only the use of the drugs, in such cases. No, she's just so enormously failed. He did not show her the letter from the landlord. He knows she can't handle it. But how can he explain to her that they will soon be evicted from the apartment? And what happens then, during the eviction itself? In the letter, it says that relocation guys will arrive on the specified day of eviction. And they will carry all their furniture and things out on the street. Everything is based on emptying the apartment. And how embarrassing, isn't it? They will have to move out of town. But where then? Maybe where nobody knows them. As it seems now, there is no solution to this whole problem, this disaster scenario. In that case, he really needs to rob a bank or similar. Only rents land at around 20,000 kronor. And the electricity may be around 6,000. He needs to raise at least 30,000 kronor, and that quickly. But how? And Emma, he can't ask for money. She also has no money. He has started 9th grade at elementary school, and she is in high school. No, it must probably be a bank anyway, he usually jokes to himself. 29. Strange meeting in cafe. And today, he gets a short text message from Emma that she wants them to meet inside a cafe in town. But she does not mention what the matter is. Just what a cafe and time. He calls her, but she doesn't answer. He also sends an SMS, but to which she does not respond. Or if the text message did not arrive, because his mobile is of an older kind, and with a very bad battery. It is not possible to talk for a long time before the battery is discharged. He never carries his cell phone with him when he goes out. It is mostly on his desk, waiting to receive text messages. And then he feels that something is wrong. It's something she hides from him. But can't that be a surprise? A positive one. Why does she have to be so secretive? After all, they have been together for almost a year. But in the end, everything comes. The whole bang. It is like turning off the lamp, and everything is literally dark. And what is he doing wrong that deserves all this shit? Ronnie's background. 30. Tough and hard road. Ronnie, thoughts. Ronnie's life feels over and toward its end. There is nothing more to get or expect from it. It has done its thing. Or maybe more. He has done his thing. He is a well-known and wealthy writer. And he himself has built up and run his own little book publisher. His books are published today in 40 languages around the world. He has earned a larger fortune, and new money flows into his bank account every day. Although all his major, difficult, and long-lasting depressions have left traces on him. The thing is, he feels so betrayed by everyone. And until the fame and success, no one ever said anything, mentioned anything, or asked anything. On many occasions, he tries to get some kind of response or shown interest from everyone. But it always feels like it's set in stone. No one wants to know how things are going for him and his book publishing. He thinks but does not know if he is putting himself on too high a level in his attempts to talk about his writing. Maybe this makes them feel insecure and does not want, dare, or even have the strength to enter into a conversation with him. Before turning around and leaving him, many say that he should think of them when he becomes rich. And this is like no one wants to believe in him, of the seriousness of his writing. Sometimes he has the idea that maybe they are kidding him. But he is not so stupid that he goes for it. Though after lots of thoughts and reflections, he understands that what most of all hangs on is just jealousy and that they love to envy others. Their thoughts may be, "You shouldn't think you're something just because you write books." During this journey, Ronnie alienates himself more and more. But at the same time, he never hesitates to talk about his writing, his books, and what he plans on publishing. This always annoys any of them, he thinks. And after he breaks through and gets the economic wheels started, he just switches off contact with one after the other, who has not done the smallest thing to encourage or support him. He fights in the headwind and makes his way up, one hill after another. At the same time as a lot of feelings die in him, based on all the betrayal from everyone, slowly but surely a success is also born. The one who is to offer a candle in the tunnel, which he then slavishly and with enormous obsession follows. 31. Doctors and psychologists. And he has been with a number of doctors and psychologists, but nobody can or has the power to help him. For some time now, he has given up his attempts to seek help this way. And now it feels like life no longer has any meaning to him. Possibly one of his books has helped him make this decision to end his life. This book takes place in heaven and hell. He is absolutely convinced that a new life exists after this, which continues at the same moment as life on earth ceases. But of course, he has calculated, or expects, that he will go on to the kingdom of heaven. He thinks that he has lived his life on earth well and has helped many others with his books, who may have difficulties in life. These, then, like him, can believe that a life goes on the other side, in a kingdom of heaven and hell. These two that Ronnie describes well and in detail in one of his novels.